Okay. Hi, this is the Drupal Usability meeting for January 9th, 2018. And we'll talk about out of the box, I think. Is that true?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do that.
Okay. There are two main issues to discuss. Basically, to present and to give a little bit of context, we have to, the out of the box has this install profile that needs to give some warnings to people to tell them that it's not for a ready for production site. And basically, the first idea was to have a warning during the installation profile. I'm gonna share the screen, so this is something better to show. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So the first idea here was to give this a warning message for people when they are installing, to explain them, hey, it's not for production. And after that, giving probably another message, because most of the people is just going to ignore that, or at least a great bunch of users is going to ignore it. And then we have another proposal to have a permanent warning message once they already have the site installed. So the first one, let's talk about the installation this page, the installation profile page. And here, a little bit of history. Some design proposals were having an image for the installation profile, since we are going for the alpha that is this next week. We are just ignoring this image. So we are just going with the default, but adding this, or at least that's the design proposal, to add this label here and the warning, explaining a little bit about that and a description. So that will be one of the proposals. Historically, we had this other option where you choose that and you pick the save and continue, and you had this pop-up or overlay or something saying that to you, are you sure, super sure about going forward with that? But since it's just this MVP for the alpha, this is the proposal. So I don't know if anybody wants to add something to that. Any ideas? Any thoughts?
I have a question, first of all. I mean, it's good to tell people that this is a demo and it's not meant for production, but is there really a big problem if people take that install profile anyway afterwards and use it for making a site?
Yeah. So there's a possibility that the theme could introduce backwards incompatible things, because the future versions, there may be other fields on the entities, etc., and the theme may have code around those things. So
okay.
There's a possibility that if you keep using the theme, then it will break your site.
Okay.
Not just the theme, but also any under the hood code that it lives in the profile, for example, in order to support some of those things. Yeah, as Jess is saying, experimental modules and data and stuff, and I can see why that would not be the case, or why you would not want to have people building on top of that. That makes sense to me. I feel like my impulse is that this right here that you're showing us, Christina, where you have this warning, if that little warning box included like a link to more information about why you shouldn't build on top of it, I feel like that would, I mean, for me anyway, that would be good enough. for my taste if I was a user, rather than the modal.
So here's some feedback from Catch, who also looked at this. He said that the yellow experimental sign screams click me, I'm the most visible thing on the page. Click me. So it actually invites you to go there instead of warning you.
Sorry, say again. So you mean having like a link or a button or something?
No. What I'm saying is the yellow highlight on experimental makes the demo item more interesting and more welcoming to click. It's more enticing. It's like it's like a flashing advertisement because it's the most visible thing on the page, right?
Yeah, like if you glance away for a second, like to the sidebar or whatever, and then glance back at the image, you'll notice your eye immediately goes to the yellow box that's like all the reasons why you shouldn't click it. So if we want people not to click it, then we should be careful.
Yeah.
So that will be the...
It looks like a call to action. Yeah, it's like click me. Okay.
Maybe if
one,
sorry, go ahead.
Not adding it is even easier for us.
Okay.
Not
well. See how like the project pages on Drupal.org work, or well, that's actually a bad example. But let's go with I don't know, one with actual modules on it.
So we add a green stable to standard and minimal, and then a yellow experimental.
Yeah, basically, well, somehow make standard and minimal more obvious to click on, and make the other one not. Now, we've not got a whole lot of time for this, so and we can always make improvements to it later.
Maybe just
sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe just making them gray or lighter or something like that.
I mean, putting a green stable next to them would be a simple thing to do so that they're at least the same visual weight as the other one, as opposed to really, really not the same visual weight. But like, we basically want to make them visually heavier. So I don't know if that's like bigger fonts or putting the demo in a collapsed field set or what, but you know what I mean? It's like, you want the two options. We want them to click on more of the time to be way more visually strong.
Okay.
And right now, that's the opposite problem, right? Or that was the concern.
Okay. Fine. And
but are we designing now ways for people to not click on demo? Because that's also not what we're aiming to do, right?
Yeah, and this is why it's interesting because even in 8.6, let's say this gets committed and we somehow magically make this requirement and the other requirement stable by in time for 8.5, and so this ships in 8.5. Even in 8.7, we're still gonna have the demo featuring experimental content and features and stuff like that, and yet we're still gonna want people to use that as their first point of entry to Drupal. So it is a tricky thing. I think for 8.5, the concern is that this is a brand new profile. It hasn't battle tested yet, this kind of thing. So right now, we don't necessarily want people to install it. What we mainly don't want them to do is install it and then build a site from it. So I think the B problem of like, what do we do after they've already installed the profile is probably the more critical one to fix. But yeah, I don't know. I guess what we want to do for this screen is we want to communicate that this profile is experimental and you should not use it for production websites. We can actually like cover our asses that way. But then the next part of it is actually the more critical part, which is they've clicked past our warnings because no one reads anything. We know that. Now what happens?
Okay.
Already got their sites set up.
Okay. Then the next one is adding this permanent message when you are already on the site. So here the idea is once you have installed it, you ignore it and you want to keep using it, there's this annoying message all the time saying you, or maybe not all the time, but I don't know, it just keeps appearing over some time, and it keeps saying to you, this is not for production, or it keeps saying you something that makes you avoid using it on production side. So here we have to decide the message, the periodicity, how is it shown, where is it shown. So there are several proposals. The last one was having this warning message only on the admin pages, and having it all the time, and remembering you that it's just a demo or for learning purposes sites. But it's just a proposal, so any idea here is more than welcome.
Yeah, did you get a chance to spitball at all with this, like in terms of the umami theme and how we would display this?
So here the idea was what we said the last time we talked about that, well, actually yesterday, we said not showing it on the theme itself, on the front end, just showing on the admin pages. So you can demo the site perfectly. You can test the theme, but you can actually add new content without, or working with content or creating pages or whatever without seeing the warning. So
Okay.
that's the idea.
Just bear in mind that like people are already trying to do things we don't want them to do. So this issue is umami theme not working in standard installation in mobile and desktop. So somehow this person has applied this patch, manually moved the umami theme out of the umami profile into the standard profile or sites all or something so that they could install it. And then they're complaining in the issue queue because it's not working properly. So we might want to put it in the theme.
That's a great example.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh my god.
So if we needed evidence that people are going to do things that we don't want them to do, ta-da! There you go. Yeah. In general, though, like I agree with that. Like the point of the demo is for it to look really nice, and if it's got like, we don't want it to look like a, one of those like shitty ad websites from the 90s or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, turn this off now. It's horrible. You know what I mean? So I think putting it in the admin panel is probably a good idea, because what we're worried about is the site builders continuing to use this. So that would get at that audience.
So
do others have opinions on that though? Like,
yeah, just go ahead, because it just came up some days ago, and any opinion is more than welcome.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the wording, like so if we say it should not be used on production, it's not really true. It should not be used for site building. So maybe
No, it should not be used in production.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Don't
Maybe we
expect
just
this
need
to
to be
work.
more clear on that warning message, that what the consequences are if you use this. So like, your site may be broken at some point, whatever.
Some of the things that we said at the beginning, we were talking about that some time ago, and it was more like a joke, but I don't know, just saying this last issue, I don't know, it's just placing some kind of timer when it says it's gonna burn in 5 weeks or something like that. I don't know.
A self-destroying mechanism that destroys itself in 2 days.
Well, film copies for festivals used to have this. Every 5 minutes there comes up the warning that this is only for a specific festival. Because we're now stuck with the idea that the theme should look really nice and you want to demo it. And at the same time, you need to put something on it to say, this shouldn't look really nice, because then people would be, so people are tempted to use it. So I think that's a really tricky question, because if you only put it on the admin pages, then it's very easy to say, I use it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sharing screen, very high level, simple mockup. But if this is your admin screen, and then regular messages are where we normally see them, we could think about having some banner along the top, right? Maybe this is the toolbar, right? Something like that, or maybe even above the toolbar.
It's tricky from an implementation perspective, though, because that would mean the profile would have to make changes to the 7 theme.
Right.
Versus if it were encapsulated in the umami theme, that's a lot cleaner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what if they're doing a lot of experimentation and they install the add minimal theme as well? And that's the one we have to modify.
Okay.
But well, that's a good point. They could also just as easily replace umami with bootstrap, and then ta-da, their warning's gone. So yeah, I guess it does have to be a module or something that I don't know. Honestly, this is a tricky problem.
Oh, well, it's not you can't waterproof this. We can't foolproof this. So we need to strike a balance between communicating without obstructing the actual goal of what this wants to do, right? So if we want to make it look good, then we should not do this, right?
And is it 2 different questions? Like, because I just looked at the issue that that WebChick had posted, and that's somebody who had actually seen the Unami theme in the under appearances and just chose that. So one thing is the question of whether people are trying to use the theme in their site.
That's not actually a question. The question is,
and the other one is the
illustration of like people are doing stuff we don't want them to do.
Yeah.
And so you need this message. The actual question is, what message do we say and how and do we present it? That's like, we don't want you to keep using this site. This is supposed to stand up for an hour, and then you're supposed to tear it down and start.
I really don't like that we're saying that people are doing things we don't want them to do. We want them to do this. We don't want them to expect this to keep working once they make it their own. I mean, it's semantics maybe, but we're talking about this as if we really rather not have umami in core or have a demo theme in core. I think we're past that, so let's be very specific in how we discuss this. Otherwise, it's like we'd rather not. I think we do.
We do want a profile in core that sets up example content. We do want it to look beautiful, so we want umami theme in core. Mm-hmm. But we do not want someone to take that site that they've set up called demo site that uses those 2 things and then proceed to continue building their, company front page website on it, because then future changes to the theme and the profile will break their site. They will get very upset about it, and we will go, it was experimental. You shouldn't have done that. And then they will write a huge screed about how Drupal sucks and destroyed all their data. And blah, blah, blah. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Thinking about that, which is not for now, could we even recognize a modified umami demo install profile when we update to 8.67?
Maybe if node ID is greater than the number of nodes.
Yeah, something simple like that. Hey, you did something. Don't expect
more than one user. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, that's for later, but that could at least. Yeah.
I think we should also think of this in terms of we can keep iterating on a solution. Like, there's this image that I love so much that has like scooter, bicycle, MVP. Let's see if I can find it real quick. this thing. I love this image. Go back. Yeah. For people who are not on the video, it's saying when you're building an MVP of a car, you don't start with one wheel. You start with a skateboard. You add a handle to the skateboard. Then you start a bicycle, then a motorcycle, and finally you end up with a car. So we need a scooter or skateboard that gets us through the next 2 to 3 weeks. But then we can continue making the wording more specific, or even add things like a blow it away and start over button or other stuff like that would get us more into like the motorcycle car end of things. So we shouldn't not brainstorm some of those bigger things, but we should also bear in mind that if we want this profile to ship in 8.5, I mean, there's a bunch of things that need to happen. One, the profile and the theme both need to get reviewed, RTBC'd, committed, and so on by Monday, which I don't know how realistic that is, but that seems kind of a tight time frame. And then secondly, if that happens, then between alpha and beta, which is about 2 weeks, we need to figure out solutions for these two problems.
So if one of the ideas is to only have the warning on the admin pages, then would it be possible to put that into the toolbar at the top as a skateboard version? Then it would be on every single admin page.
Because Roy, that's effectively what you were showing, right? Like an extra banner that's added to the top of the toolbar or something?
I would propose even simpler, to just add it into the toolbar for now, for the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Well, as in?
But what places do we have stuff right now? Because
yeah, that's like this.
Don't.
Yeah. Because there's potentially modules that put stuff here.
I was just realizing that also, if you would put it in the toolbar there, it would also be visible on the front end theme for logged-in users.
Yes, true.
So, but that wouldn't be a problem then, because it wouldn't get in the way of the actual theme.
But then it would still be an override of the admin theme, right? Or would it be?
No, that would be in the toolbar.
Right. Okay.
Independent mode.
I mean, you could even think about changing the color of the toolbar itself.
We could, or we still need something to say what that means.
So the main idea here is to keep something permanent, super visible.
Either permanent or dismissible, but then comes back after a little bit. And then that's like dynamic code and requires debugging and automated tests and stuff. So I think the easiest thing is a stark visual change that's there permanently.
Okay. Currently in the site and in admin, in the site or in admin. That's...
What? On the society, the other is the admin.
I understand the desire from the theme creators not to make they work their ass off on this beautiful theme and not to like completely obliterate their efforts with, I think it's fine. I think it's fine to put in the admin panel only because that's actually the audience that can screw this up. It's not the end user audience that can screw it up. However, I'm worried about the implementation of that because it's not like the theme can make changes to, or it's not like the profile can make changes to 7 theme. I mean, I guess we could copy all of 7 theme into the profile and hack it for this one thing, but that's not going to be maintainable at all. And it's definitely not something we want to encourage as a best practice. So That's my only concern about admin only, is I don't really know implementation-wise how to do that.
Okay.
Beyond adding a experimental warning module that this profile depends on. And then that would take care of it. Something like that would work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can either steal the code or use the environment indicator module.
Yeah, I saw you post that.
I've posted a link to the chat.
Yeah. I think the problem is it's a catch-22. So if we end up adding a new chunk of code, like functional code, to pull off this warning, it now has an alpha deadline. So we can't do it between alpha and beta, right? We can do things in the profile and in the theme between alpha and beta, but we can't like add more modules to core between.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like a catch-22. Otherwise, I'm a huge fan of this module, and that would be really interesting to pursue as a improvement. But we definitely can't get that RTC benefit.
What about something less heavy-handed, where we create a block with a warning in it, and an installation profile enables that block in the default theme and in the admin theme, and then the site builder can get rid of that if they don't like our warning?
Well, the idea is we don't want them to get rid of that, but the warning would be such that it's like, welcome to the demo. When you're finished, here's instructions for how to get a real site set up, you know, or something.
Okay.
And then maybe a sterner warning in the admin part or something like that. Anyway, that's interesting. Because yeah, that's all stuff. Any configuration changes and stuff, that can all be handled at the profile level. So.
Okay, and taking all of that into account, everything that you've said, what do you think that will be an MVP for next week?
Right, because Jess, you're also putting in the chat, keep in mind that I think we need to solve this well. We need to define what that means, because otherwise it's like an unknown target we're chasing. Not sure if we can come up with it in this.
Solve it, but I also don't think we need to come up with the penultimate solution. I think we can come up with a solution that works for the requirements, and the requirements being warning people before they install that what they're about to do is experimental and not supported. And then 2 is warning people after install constantly that they should not be building stuff on their site.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those requirements need to be addressed, but I don't think we need to. I think we can envision much more robust ways of handling those 2 requirements and continue iterating on whatever we come up with. So I disagree that we need a Yaris and not a scooter. And I think the more we try and force ourselves to have Yarises to start with, the worse off our chances are of shipping functional awesomeness in Drupal.
What's a Yaris?
Shitty car. Not a shitty car, but it's a less fancy car than a Porsche.
Crappy car. Okay.
So do the designers have a good sense of what the requirements are? I guess that's my main question. Because we're going to meet next week and you know, review whatever gets come up with, and we'll continue like looking at this. But just to be starting off with, are the requirements clear, or is there more?
No, that's clear. That's clear, and then
the constraints as well, like the constraints being that adding new functionality is going to tank this entire thing because we can't add new functionality in 4 days.
Yeah, I'll try to explain it the best way possible to the team. So let's see if we can come up with something.
Is adding something to the status report page also the job of the admin theme? Could we insert something there as well?
That is pretty easy. That's a hook the profile would implement, or hook requirements. and you can give it an error, and that would show it as a red ugly thing in the status panel.
Okay.
But I think the statement made by the committers was we need something better than just that. Like that would be the standard.
No, it wouldn't be just that, but I'm thinking about that and noticed that there's updates available for your Drupal installation.
Yep.
Maybe not do this for this one.
Okay. Okay, then.
Okay, Christina, I'll get back to you and see if we can hash out some design approaches.
Thanks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So as we discussed earlier, this is going to be the recorded part of today's meeting. So we'll say goodbye for the recording.